What is the hardest debate in all of BLUELOCK? Is it who is the best striker, who has the best weapon, maybe debating the best team or formation? And to that I say, it's all wrong. Making BLUELOCK content for over a year now with almost 40 videos, there is no doubt in my mind the hardest debate in BLUELOCK is who is the best new Gen 11. This question is asked in almost every single one of my comment sections, and for good reason. The new Gen 11 is one of the most hyped up titles, containing some of the best players we've seen in the series, so of course people want to compare them. However, this is the hardest debate though. You have 3 completely insane players, 3 completely different positions, and 2 out of the 3 have only played in one game. It's been a debate everyone has avoided, including myself. There's too many insane feats and they're all super different, but now is the day where we try and settle this debate. Who is the best new Gen 11? Now there is no exact way we can compare since they are all super different positions, Lorenzo being a defender, Sae being a midfielder, and Kaiser a striker. But to be as fair as possible, I'm going to be doing 2 ratings as we go along here. The first one being the best overall player, comparing stats, weapons, what they have in their arsenal, and of course going over their feats and plays. And then the second rating will be feats as just a main focus, going over some specific character moments. Some people focus solely on feats when talking about the best, so it's only fair to cover it as well. Let's first start off with each new Gen 11's abilities. This is super important to know before we actually compare, and then ultimately deciding who is the best. We'll go ahead and go through it quickly though, since you guys already know them, starting with the character with the most development so far, Michael Kaiser. Kaiser, the new Gen 11 striker, has some of the best offensive abilities we've seen so far, most notably his metavision as well as his Kaiser impact, which has many different forms at this point. This guy single-handedly changed the rating to hard mode for BLUELOCK and the Neo Egoist League, Kaiser impact being the fastest shot swing in the world, which even beats out the #1 striker. People are literally unable to see where it's going before it's already in the goal. Add Predator's Eye, off-the-ball movements with an insane speed stat, and you got one of the best offensive players. On the other side though, you have Don Lorenzo, the defender of the new Gen 11 and the heart of Ubers. Lorenzo is a simple man. He thinks of 2 things and 2 things only: getting the bag and his money up, and being an absolute demon on defense. The defensive capabilities we've seen from him, such as his marking skills, allowed him to fully keep up with Kaiser, who we just said is one of the best offensive players, being able to lock him down fully when he was actively marking him. We see him steal possession, win countless 1v1s, and on top of that have a crazy dribble, the type of stuff you only see in a manga like BLUELOCK. This allows him to provide support in the midfield, again beating out players in 1v1s and dragging the ball upfield for a very underrated offense stat. There's a lot of things Lorenzo is capable of that we'll discuss throughout this video, but we first have to talk about Itoshi Sae, the quote-unquote first new Gen 11. A nonchalant king, Sae is the best midfielder we've seen in BLUELOCK so far, being able to single-handedly lead the U20's offense with his dribbling and insane passes. I believe his most notable weapon is his dribbling though. With so many different techniques and the highest 1v1 win rate in BLUELOCK, he can lead and also provide so much support to the offense and maybe even take part of it himself. We've seen Sae have some shooting techniques up his sleeve as a previous striker, scoring a goal in the U20 and almost another one if it wasn't for long legs. Incredible game reading as well, which we've seen is insanely deadly for a midfielder. He can feel the heat of players for a scoring option, also appearing at what seems to be the most random moments, and not a confirmed but pretty much assumed metavision. So now that we know all of their abilities, it's time for the hardest part, comparing each of their skills, stats, feats, weapons, and stuff like that. I think a fun way to do this would be to compare the actual stats given in BLUELOCK, as they kind of do cover everything. So comparing the 3s: speed, defense, pass, dribble, shoot, and offense. I'll be giving examples and whatnot for these specific stats, while also going through the feats. By the end of this, we'll have 2 definitive answers for our best overall player and then the player with the best feats. Starting off with speed, it may come to you as sort of a surprise, but Kaiser actually has a faster speed stat than Lorenzo, with just numbers alone. Unfortunately, for all these comparisons, we don't have Sae's official numbers, but we're not just basing it off of stats and numbers alone. We have other parts to look at. For the speed stat specifically, we'll obviously analyze Sae's U20 performance and uses of his speed or speed feats. For example, Sae's run in the U20 when he leaned forward in the beanbag and actually started trying just showcases how insane his speed actually is. Keeping on pace with the U20 BLUELOCK the whole match, and then out of nowhere ramping up and going past 7 different players with barely anyone but Rin being able to keep up, shows how insane his speed stat actually is. Off the ball is another aspect we can talk about when talking about speed specifically, as appearing at the best position in the most crucial moments is kind of correlated to speed. In order to use off the ball efficiently, you need to have some sort of speed. The person we see do this the most is Kaiser, appearing in front of the goal many different times to either mess up Isagi or shoot the ball himself. And with a higher speed stat than Lorenzo, it just makes sense. Kaiser has showcased his speed on many different occasions, even countering speedsters like Chigiri. And I know he has more chances to showcase it since Lorenzo and Sae have only played one game, but I still think either way, Kaiser wins in the speed department with Sae in second and Lorenzo in third. To make it fun and so we can also keep track of who places where, let's do a point system. Coming in first gives you 3 points, second with 2, and third place with 1. So with that, Kaiser is in first place. And if y'all want to be first place too in my heart, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We are literally 700 subs away from 20k subs, which is absolutely crazy even before season 2 drops. So join the ride early on and make sure to hit that subscribe button. Anyways, going down the list, the next option is going to be our defense stat. Do I really need to say more here? Lorenzo is a complete wipe coming in first place. Boss music starts playing when Lorenzo starts defending with an insane 99 defense stat, the highest stat we've seen so far. It's an obvious choice for him. So this is more of an argument of who is getting second place between Sae and Kaiser. But first, let's go over Lorenzo's feats since it'll be super important to our second discussion, which is again solely focusing on feats. Defense is super broad as a whole. I think some of Lorenzo's best feats were the fact that he was marking Kaiser an absolute offensive weapon for literally the whole match. Anyone who Lorenzo marks will have a super difficult time because he is such a good defender. Kaiser again is the prime example of this. Lorenzo blocked a Kaiser impact, being the only person so far to do so. Let's just genuinely talk about how impressive that is. The fact that Kaiser impact is the fastest shot swing in the world. Even beating out Noah, Lorenzo was able to anticipate the spot where he would shoot it and block it. The only downside is that we've only seen one game from Lorenzo and he was just locking down Kaiser the whole time. So we didn't really get to see the full capabilities of his defense, defending, going against multiple players and whatnot. Then again, it still is insane that he was able to shut down one of the best players in the facility. So for second place in defense, although Kaiser has been defending against Isagi even on the same team, Sae is gonna take this spot for me. Sae on defense is actually extremely underrated. He knows how to use his physique well. Again, his 1v1 win rate is insane as well. So now the rankings look like this. Everything balanced, which really shows how close of a debate this is. The next one is passing. Unless you've been living under a rock or read the manga with crazy goggles on, you know Sae is already number 1 here. Most of Sae's feats come from his passes, the fact that he's able to pass with pinpoint accuracy, and also know who is the best to pass to at the current time. Part of Shido's insane goals were from Sae's calculated passes. Chigiri was just a centimeter away, with Sae calculating his speed and Shido's speed at that fraction of a second. The fact that Sae threaded that needle just shows how good his passes actually are. The thing about Sae's feats though are that they come from a U20 blue lock. If he were to go against a Neo Egoist League blue lock, I think it would get shut down a little easier, especially with the development of Metavision for most. Even then, he is still going to take the first place spot, and coming in the second place, honestly, this is a closer debate than it actually seems. Even though Lorenzo switched to a midfielder and was feeding passes to Barou, Kaiser in the game actually has good passing with Ness and friends. However, I'm still going to give it to Lorenzo. His passes are not the flashiest by any means, but they do the job and they do the job well. He gets it to where he wants to. He's actually got almost every single pass through that I can find. That consistency gives him an 87 pass rating, which is also higher than Kaiser's 81. So now with Sae in first, Lorenzo in second, and Kaiser in third, the rankings are looking like this. Fourth one we have to cover is dribble. Now, Kaiser is an obvious third place here, but now we have Lorenzo's zombie dribbling versus Sae's insane dribbling. Lorenzo's dribbling is pretty underrated. The fact that he ran through the bastard team with it, and zombie dribbling looks like the waving tubes from car dealerships. Again, we haven't seen much of Lorenzo's dribble due to his defense showing out more, but the feat alone kind of matches Sae's U20 run, which we did cover before when talking about speed. They both managed to solo break through the whole team. However, Sae's dribbling has single-handedly made a cult following. The people who live in the mountains with no internet and no news of the outside world have probably heard about Itoshi Sae's dribbling. It's literally mind-boggling how good this guy is at dribbling. If we had a stat for Sae in specifically dribble, I could definitely see it being a 97 or above. I've said it before, but he has beat almost all of the BLUELOCK U20 team in 1v1s with his dribbling. His only loss was to Rin, and that can be argued as Sae wasn't trying or maybe even purposely lost so BLUELOCK could win. Whatever you think, it still gives him one of the best 1v1 stats from his dribbling alone. Sae even pulls off 1v2s with it. Again, this is a U20 version of Blue Lock, but even then, it's still pretty impressive. With Sae coming in first for dribble, Lorenzo in second, and Kaiser for third, we move on to the shoot stat, which is dominated by Kaiser. There is no debate about this. With a 98 rating in shooting, as well as the only person who has Kaiser impact, his absolute weapon makes it super hard to replicate what he does, giving him such an advantage when it comes to shooting. There are a lot of versions of the Kaiser impact, but I want to focus more on the Kaiser impact Magnus, the most recent one, which gives it a curve, meaning he can control the direction of it. Alright, so far Kaiser hasn't been able to do it, and I'm not sure if it'll happen in this match, but once he is able to master it, I think this Magnus weapon will be one of the most dangerous weapons in the series, already making a powerful weapon even more powerful. The Kaiser impact Magnus is like giving a bazooka a scope. Kaiser can now be way more accurate with it and have more options for scoring if he manages to master it, which I think he'll do in the U20 World Cup, but so far no feats from it. The other feats that we can talk about though is the normal version of the Kaiser impact. The fact that it is so fast, it's able to breeze past all of the defense on Munchen, surprise people the first time they see it, and also do a nutmeg bicycle kick. In terms of shooting, basically nothing compares to Kaiser. Even if he is currently out of his prime or not performing the best, we still can't deny the insane feats he has. I think the whole shoot stat is a pretty obvious one. Between Sae and Lorenzo, Sae obviously takes the cake here. We've seen him make a goal in the U20, and he was also previously a striker, said to be Japan's prodigy before switching to the midfielder role. Lorenzo, I don't think he has shot, or we haven't seen him shoot. Surprisingly, he has a 82 shoot stat, which isn't bad, but there's just no feats compared to Sae or Kaiser. After shoot, the stats are looking like this now, and it brings us to our last one before counting it all. And this is going to be the offense stat. Like the defense stat, offense is a really broad term, but we're going to be looking at their arsenals a little here, specifically for offense. For Kaiser, every single weapon he has supports his offense. You have Metavision, which can perfectly position him for a Kaiser impact, which finishes these goals off. Add Predator's Eye and his game knowledge, his offense is extremely strong even by himself. Add some of his other teammates as well, and Kaiser can dominate the field. For Sae's offense, the fact that he can pass, dribble, and shoot all with extreme precision makes him such a big threat offensively. It's not necessarily known if he is an offensive midfielder like Isagi who looks for goals, but we've seen him score in the U20, and he's more than capable of taking the offensive reins himself instead of just passing. For Lorenzo's offense, it revolves working around the team and highlighting one player's abilities. We see him do this with Barou, even being able to work with him when he goes off of Snuffy's plan, adapting to his king-like style, and using zombie dribbling to do so. So with all that covered, the offense stat I still think is an easy one to determine, which will give us our last and final stat rankings. Again, remember, this is for the best overall player from the new Gen 11, taking in consideration all the stats given to us from Blue Lock. The feats debate will be right after this. We have been going over their feats over the course of this video, and who has the best feats obviously has a different result than who is the best overall player. Getting back to it though, winning out in our offense stat with 3 points is Kaiser, followed by 2 points with Itoshi Sae, and 1 point with Lorenzo, which leads us to the result of Lorenzo with 10 points overall, Kaiser with 12 points overall, and Sae with 14 points overall. So yeah, the winner of the overall stats, and I guess the best new Gen 11 player overall, would be Itoshi Sae, and for good reasons. He's shown time and time again his versatility, providing amazing offensive support as well as defensive and shooting feats. Dribbling and passing proved to be super useful signature weapons, as well as a hidden shooting capability. Overall, just an insane arsenal that wins out in our overall debate. Some people consider debating feats as the best player, as if they are capable of pulling off feats worthy of being the best, then they should be considered the best. We have been going over most of their feats throughout this video, but once again, we'll cover the most insane feats and also their pitfalls to basically power scale and decide the best from feats alone. Starting off with Sae, I think one of Sae's best feats include the fact that he ran through a whole team by himself with just his dribbling. Granted, this may be because of him going against a newbie U20 Blue Lock team, which is drastically different from the NEL Blue Lock. I think Hiyori is a great example of this. We see pre-Metavision Hiyori unable to stop or predict what Itoshi Sae is gonna do, literally unable to comprehend the play he was making. Post-Metavision Hiyori though, the gamer glasses are on and we see him able to predict and beat out 1v1s against Lorenzo. So the point is, if Sae went against an NEL Blue Lock, the results wouldn't have been that drastic. Besides that though, Sae's game reading combined with his passing make up for some of the best passing feats we've seen in the series. I will say though, Sae is kind of balanced when it comes to his passes getting through, even though they are super accurate. We've seen the likes of Nico, Rin, and Isagi, obviously all three being spatial awareness geniuses of Blue Lock, so with an updated buff of Metavision, I think Sae would have a harder time getting his passes through. So feats-wise, although impressive, it was against an underdeveloped Blue Lock. You can also make the argument as well that Sae wasn't trying the whole match, and maybe even intentionally threw for Blue Lock to win. Whatever the case is, those are Sae's feats currently. All right, so Kaiser is next with all the best feats in my opinion coming from his goals. Obviously, all shot by the Kaiser impact. We're basically trying to see how he gets these goal feats. He's able to analyze, use Predator's Eye, and find the best situation using Metavision to score a goal with Kaiser impact, giving us one of the best shots only being blocked once. The mid-air Kaiser impact can be in the Hall of Fame. In fact, maybe even put it up on a picture frame somewhere in Germany. This feat alone is absolutely insane. The fact that in that 0.5 second interval, he was in the air, he managed to analyze and make a nutmeg shot that bounces into the goal. It's just absolutely crazy. He took advantage of Lorenzo leaving him for a split second and got that opportunity for a goal. Unfortunately, that's kind of all he did during Ubers, but still, it's up there with some of the best goals we've seen in the series, if not the best goal we've seen in BLUELOCK, so Kaiser technically has the single best feat between the three. Kaiser has had some low lows though because of his downfall. Currently in PXG, he's comparable to both Rin and Isagi, more of Isagi though. This is pre-chapter 262, so we may just see him score a goal and go above them, or we might just see him sink even lower. He hasn't done anything noteworthy since that bicycle kick goal. You know how we just said Kaiser Impact has one of the best feats in BLUELOCK and was blocked only once? Yeah, Lorenzo was single-handedly responsible for that block. The fact that he was able to read the game, position himself, and face block it, something even other U20 members of Manshine couldn't even see, and then get up and immediately start playing again is just absurd. We've went over it multiple times, but the fact that he was able to mark Kaiser the whole game and was able to analyze situations to steal possession is a feat in of itself. Marking the ace of the game who is an offensive weapon the whole time is crazy hard. Like I said, Lorenzo does his job and he does his job well. To be honest, it's also the only New Gen 11 matchup we've seen, and we can say he did win it out. Kaiser only got the goal because Lorenzo left him for literally 0.5 seconds. Lorenzo's pitfall really only comes from that, and then the Hiyori dribble, which could be because of plot, which made Hiyori just enter the flow and pop off. When it comes down to it, I don't think Lorenzo would struggle stopping Hiyori when Lorenzo has been marking Kaiser the whole time. So now that we've finally gone over the major feats, we can make a conclusion for our feats debate. I know I can go over more, but micro-analyzing just led me all to the same answer. The picture is painted, and I think in terms of feats, Sae is in last place, Kaiser is in second place, and Lorenzo is in first place. We have gotten way more screen time for Kaiser, and even though he holds the single best feat or goal in BLUELOCK, he just barely gets edged out by Lorenzo. In fact, I would probably make the rankings like this: Lorenzo greater than or equal to Kaiser, who is greater than Sae when it comes to feats. I do just want to give the edge out to Lorenzo because I think purely in a 1v1, Kaiser wouldn't be able to get past Lorenzo, which means he would never be able to use Kaiser Impact because Lorenzo's marking him the whole game. We saw it all throughout the Ubers. So he wouldn't be able to pull off the thing that gave him most of his feats, or if Lorenzo just never stopped marking Kaiser, he would have been fully stopped the whole game, which majority of the time was happening. He's also the only player to win the only New Gen 11 1v1 so far, and for the Hiyori loss, every New Gen 11 has been dribbled past as well, so we can't dock Lorenzo points just because of that. As for Sae, he mostly comes in last because of his feats against a lower tier BLUELOCK, while Lorenzo and Kaiser have to compete against a higher tier BLUELOCK, and then obviously U20 level players. Alright, so that is currently my take on the New Gen 11 debate, debating who is the best overall player from the New Gen 11, and then the best feats wise from the New Gen 11. Itoshi Sae taking the overall choice and Lorenzo taking the feats choice. Again, this is all my opinion and my observations. You may have a different opinion from me. I asked y'all in a community post as well, and there seems to be a lot of debate there as well. Make sure to check those out as well. I always ask hard BLUELOCK questions, which may be turned into a video just like this. Anyways, if you have any debates or your take on the best New Gen 11, make sure to leave it all in the comment section down below. Maybe you think there are some feats I left out or some stats that could be debated. Whatever the case is though, if you watched to the end, thank you guys so much for watching. My name's Hiryo, and I'll see you guys next one.